Welcome to my channel. Let me ask you something. Have you ever watched an English video and felt completely lost, even though you already know many English words? Have you ever listened to someone speaking and thought, why does English suddenly become so difficult when people talk? You understand reading, you understand grammar, you even know vocabulary, but the moment English reaches your ears, everything disappears. You hear sounds, but the meaning feels hidden. If this happens to you, you are not alone. Millions of English learners face the exact same struggle every single day. And today, we are going to uncover something surprising. The problem may not be your English level at all. In this video, we will talk about why English listening feels impossible, what happens inside your brain while listening, the mistakes that keep learners stuck, and the simple habit that can slowly change everything. Stay with me until the end because one small idea from this day video may completely change the way you practice English listening forever. Chapter 1. Why English listening feels so difficult, the real reason. Have you ever opened an English video, started listening carefully, and after a few seconds, your mind completely stopped working? Can't. You heard words, but somehow nothing made sense. You tried again, you focused harder. Can't. Still, it felt like people were speaking too fast, too differently, or using words that disappeared before you could understand them. If this has ever happened to you, I want you to know something important. You are not weak in English. You are not alone. And most importantly, your listening problem may not be what you think it is. English listening is one of the biggest struggles for millions of learners, around the world, because listening is not just about knowing words. It is about recognizing sounds, understanding speed, connecting meaning, and training your brain to process English naturally. That is why many students feel confused, even after studying English for years. Think about this for a moment. You may be able to read English sentences easily. You may understand grammar explanations. You may know hundreds of vocabulary words, but when someone speaks naturally, everything suddenly feels different. Why does this happen? Because spoken English is not the same as written English. When we read, we see each word clearly. We can stop, we can go back, we can think, but when we listen, English moves quickly. Words disappear instantly. There is no time to pause every second and search for meanings. Your brain has to work in real time. And for beginners, that feels exhausting. One of the biggest reasons listening feels difficult is pronunciation. Many learners imagine that English words always sound exactly like they appear in books. But real spoken English often sounds connected, shortened, and different from textbook pronunciation. Native speakers and fluent speakers do not pronounce every word separately like machines. They connect words together. They reduce sounds. They speak naturally. For example, enable sentences may sound completely different when spoken quickly. A beginner hears this and thinks, I do not know this word. But the truth is, the learner often knows the words already. The problem is, I knows the words ready. The problem is recognizing them in connected speech. Another reason learners struggle is speed. When you read English, you control the speed. When you listen, someone else controls it. Your brain may still be trying to understand the first part of a sentence while the speaker has already moved to the next idea. This creates pressure. Slowly, learners start translating everything in their heads. First, English enters, then translation happens, then understanding comes. By that time, the conversation has already moved forward. This makes listening feel impossible. But fluent listeners do not translate every sentence. They understand directly. That ability is through training and exposure. Many beginners also expect listening improvement to happen quickly. They listen for 1 week and expect perfect understanding. Then they become disappointed. They think something is wrong. But listening is more like building strength than collecting information. You do not become stronger after one workout. You become stronger after repeating the process again and again. English listening works the same way. Cow, every day, your ears become more familiar with sounds. Your brain becomes faster at connecting meaning. Improvement is happening even when you do not notice it. There is also another hidden problem: fear. Many learners are afraid of not understanding. The moment they hear unfamiliar sounds, they panic. Their brain becomes tense. They stop enjoying listening and start treating it like an exam. This fear makes listening even harder. When your mind is stressed, understanding becomes weaker. Suddenly, one difficult sentence turns into a full breakdown. But listening should never feel like punishment. Listening should feel like practice. You are training your brain, not proving your intelligence. Another surprising truth is this: sometimes learners understand more than they think. They listen for perfection and forget that understanding the overall message is progress. Imagine watching a short English conversation and understanding the main idea, even though some words are unclear. That is real listening progress. You do not need 100% understanding to improve. Beginners often believe they must catch every word before moving forward. This creates unnecessary pressure. Real listeners focus on meaning first and details later. Now, I want you to think about something. Have you ever listened to music in your own language? And sometimes you do not understand every single word clearly, but you still understand the emotion and message. English listening works similarly. Your goal at the beginning is not catching every sound perfectly. Your goal is becoming comfortable with English sounds and understanding more over time. The more comfortable you become, the easier listening feels. The problem is not that English is impossible. The problem is that many learners practice listening the wrong way. They choose difficult videos. They listen once and quit. They try to understand every word. They become frustrated and stop completely. But listening is a skill that grows through patience and repetition. Nobody becomes a good listener overnight. Every fluent English speaker. So, if you are watching this video and thinking, "Oh, this is exactly how I feel," then stay with me, because in the next chapter, we are going to discover what actually happens inside your brain when you listen to English every day. And when you understand that process, listening will stop feeling mysterious and start feeling possible. The truth may surprise you more than you expect. Chapter 2. What happens inside your brain when you listen to English? In the previous chapter, we talked about why English listening feels so difficult and why many learners feel stuck, even after studying for a long time. Now, in this chapter, I want to show you something that many students never learn. The real reason listening becomes easier is not because English suddenly becomes slower or easier. It is because your brain changes the way it processes English. And once you understand what happens inside your brain, listening stops feeling impossible and starts feeling like something you can improve naturally. Okay? Imagine your brain as a very fast machine that is constantly receiving information. Every second, your ears collect sounds and send them to your brain. But your brain does not automatically understand everything. It has to recognize sounds, connect them to words, connect words to meaning, and build understanding almost instantly. This process happens so quickly that most people never think about it. Okay, but for English learners, this process feels overwhelming because your brain is still getting used to English sounds. At the beginning, when you listen to English, your brain works very hard. It hears sounds and immediately tries to compare them with your native language. It searches for familiar patterns. It tries to translate. It tries to understand every word separately. All of this takes time and energy. That is why beginners feel tired after listening for only a few minutes. Their brain is doing extra work. It is not weak. It is simply learning something new. One surprising thing happens when learners listen regularly. Your brain starts becoming faster at recognizing English sounds. At first, every word feels new, cow, but after repeated exposure, your brain begins predicting what sounds are coming next. It becomes familiar with English rhythm, pronunciation, and sentence flow. This is something you may not notice immediately, but it is one of the biggest secrets of listening improvement. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. At first, every movement requires attention. You think about balance. You think about turning. You feel uncomfortable. But after practice, riding becomes automatic. You do not think about every movement anymore. Listening works in a similar way. At first, understanding English requires a lot of mental effort, but over time, your brain becomes more comfortable and automatic. Another important thing your brain does during listening is building connections. Every time you hear a word in different situations, your brain connects that word with meaning. Vocabulary is not stored as a simple list. Your brain remembers words through experiences and context. That is why listening to real English conversations helps more than memorizing hundreds of words from a notebook. For example, if you only memorize the word decision, you may remember the definition for a short time. But if you hear that word used repeatedly in different sentences, your brain starts understanding when and how to use it naturally. Context makes memory stronger. Listening gives your vocabulary life. Many learners also make one big mistake. They think understanding every single word is necessary. But your brain does not understand language word by word in real life. Fluent listeners understand groups of ideas. They focus on meaning instead of catching every sound perfectly. This is why native speakers can miss a word and still understand the conversation. Your brain learns through repetition, not pressure. When learners listen once and expect perfect results, they become disappointed. But real improvement happens quietly. Every time you listen again, your brain recognizes something it missed before. A sentence that sounded impossible yesterday suddenly feels familiar today. This is not magic. This is your brain adapting. There is also something called prediction. Your brain constantly guesses what comes next while listening. When you hear common sentence patterns again and again, your brain becomes better at predicting meaning. This reduces stress and makes listening feel smoother. That is why experienced English listeners seem relaxed. Their brain is working efficiently. Another reason listening becomes difficult is because learners focus too much on details. They hear one unfamiliar word and immediately stop understanding everything. But trained listeners keep moving forward. They understand the overall message first and use context to fill missing information. This is a skill your brain develops with practice. Now, let us talk about something very powerful. Your brain actually becomes stronger through repeated exposure. When you listen every day, your brain creates stronger pathways for English processing. These pathways help you recognize words faster, understand sentences quicker, and connect ideas more naturally. This is why daily listening works better than occasional long sessions. Many students believe they need more grammar to improve listening. Grammar is useful, but listening improvement depends heavily on exposure. Okay, the more your brain hears correct English naturally, the more comfortable it becomes with the language. Grammar explains structure. Listening builds recognition. Another beautiful thing about listening practice is that improvement often appears suddenly. One day you realize you understand a video without subtitles. Yo-ko, another day you catch words that used to disappear completely. Hey, another day, English conversations feel less tiring. These moments happen because your brain has been changing quietly all along. So, if you feel like nothing is improving right now, do not trust that feeling completely. Your brain may already be building new habits and new connections. Listening progress is often invisible in the beginning, but every minute of exposure matters. The most important lesson from this chapter is this. Your brain is not failing when English listening feels difficult. Your brain is learning and adjusting. It is becoming familiar with a new sound system and a new way of understanding language. That process takes time, but it works. In the next chapter, we will talk about one of the biggest reasons learners lose motivation and quit listening practice completely. I will show you the mistakes that keep learners stuck and exactly what to do instead. And trust me, once you understand those mistakes, your listening journey will become much easier and much more enjoyable. Chapter 3. The biggest mistakes English learners make in listening practice. Now we have reached one of the most important chapters of this video. Because this chapter can completely change the way you practice English listening. Many learners struggle for months or even years and think the problem is their ability. They believe English is too difficult, or maybe they are not talented enough. But often, the real problem is not ability. The real problem is the way they practice. And once you understand these mistakes, you will realize that improving listening is much more simple than you imagined. Okay, the first mistake that many learners make is choosing listening material that is far above their level. This is one of the fastest ways to lose motivation. A beginner opens a movie, a fast English podcast, a difficult news video, or advanced conversations, and expects to understand everything immediately. After a few minutes, they understand almost nothing. They feel confused. They feel disappointed. Then they conclude that listening is impossible. But the truth is not that they cannot learn. The truth is that they gave their brain a task that was too difficult too early. Think about this. If someone who has never exercised before goes directly into heavy training for hours, their body becomes tired and they may quit. Listening works the same way. Your brain needs gradual practice. Easy listening is not childish. Easy listening is smart listening. Your goal is not to suffer. Your goal is to train your ears and build confidence step by step. The second mistake is depending too much on subtitles. Many learners watch English videos, but spend all their attention reading subtitles instead of listening. They think they are improving listening because they are watching English content. But in reality, their eyes are doing most of the work. Their ears become lazy. Subtitles are useful sometimes, but if they become your permanent support, your listening development slows down. A better approach is to listen first without reading every word. Try to understand the main idea. Then check subtitles if needed. Then listen again. Each repetition teaches your brain something new. Your ears become stronger when they are actually doing the work. Like another common mistake is stopping immediately whenever one word is unknown. This habit destroys listening progress. Many beginners hear one unfamiliar word and stop the entire audio. They search for the meaning. They search for the meaning. Then they lose the next sentence. Then another sentence disappears. Soon, they understand nothing. Real listening does not work like this. Native speakers and fluent listeners do not understand every word all the time. They continue listening and use surrounding information to understand the message. Beginners must learn this habit too. Missing one word does not mean missing the whole conversation. The next mistake is trying to understand every single word perfectly. This creates unnecessary pressure. Listening becomes stressful instead of enjoyable. Learners become so focused on details that they forget the overall message. They become exhausted. Imagine watching a movie in your own language. You do not understand every background sound or every tiny detail, but you still understand the story. English listening is similar. Focus on meaning first. Details become clearer later. Another huge mistake is passive listening. Passive listening means playing English in the background while doing something else. Many learners believe this alone will improve their English. They listen while scrolling their phone, cleaning the room, or doing homework. Exposure is good, but passive listening cannot replace focused listening. Your brain improves when it pays attention. 10 minutes of focused listening can often help more than 1 hour of distracted listening. Quality matters. Many learners also compare themselves with fluent speakers and become discouraged. They watch someone speaking easily and think, I should understand everything like them, you know? This comparison creates frustration, but what learners forget is that fluent speakers spend thousands of hours listening. You are comparing your beginning with someone else's progress. Everyone starts somewhere. Improvement comes through repetition and patience. Another mistake is expecting instant results. Learners listen for a few days and say, nothing changed. Okay, but listening improvement is invisible at first. Your brain learns before your confidence catches up. Small changes happen quietly. One day, you understand a little more. Another day, familiar words feel easier. Progress is building. Some students also practice too much at once. Then 18 the once were teens for much one. They listen for hours in one day and then disappear for a week. This creates inconsistency. Your brain learns better through regular exposure than extreme sessions. 10 or 20 minutes daily can create better results than occasional long listening marathons. There is also one mistake that almost every learner makes at some point. They become afraid of difficult English. They avoid challenges completely, but growth happens when you gently move forward. Not by jumping into impossible content, but by slowly increasing difficulty. Listening should feel uncomfortable sometimes, but not overwhelming. Okay. Now here is the most important thing I want you to remember. Your goal is not perfect listening. Your goal is better listening than yesterday. Every mistake you make during practice is information. You know, every unclear sentence is a chance for your brain to become stronger. Stop treating listening like a test. Treat it like training. If you avoid these mistakes and start practicing in a smarter way, your listening will improve faster than you expect. You do not need complicated methods. You need the right habits. And in the next chapter, I am going to show you exactly how complete beginners can improve English listening without stress, without pressure, and without feeling lost every single day. What I share next may become the turning point in your English journey. Chapter 4. How to improve English listening even as a complete beginner. Now, we have reached the chapter that many learners have been waiting for because knowing the problem is one thing, but knowing what to actually do is where real progress begins. If you are someone who feels English listening is impossible, confusing, or frustrating, I want you to understand one thing first. You do not need advanced English to improve listening. You do not need to understand every word. You do not need to wait until your grammar becomes perfect. You can start today exactly where you are. Complete beginners can improve listening faster than they think if they follow the right approach. Many learners imagine that improving listening means watching difficult movies, listening to fast podcasts, or forcing themselves into advanced conversations. But this creates pressure and often leads people to quit. Real listening improvement begins with something much simpler. It begins with choosing content that feels slightly comfortable and slightly challenging at the same time. Not too easy that your brain becomes lazy. Not too difficult that your confidence disappears. Uh, the first thing you should do is build a small daily listening habit. Do not start with 1 hour. Do not create impossible goals. Start with 10 to 15 minutes if 30 minutes feels difficult. The goal is not to impress yourself with long study sessions. The goal is to train your brain every single day. Consistency creates familiarity. Familiarity creates confidence. Confidence creates better listening. Imagine listening to the same type of English every day. At first, your ears feel strange. Words disappear quickly. Sounds feel unfamiliar. But after several days, something interesting happens. Certain words start becoming recognizable. Certain sentence patterns feel familiar. Your brain begins adjusting without you forcing it. This is the power of repetition. Another powerful method is listening more than once. Many learners listen one time and immediately move on. But real learning happens through repeated exposure. Listen once for the general meaning. Listen again and catch more details. Listen a third time and notice sounds and pronunciation. Each repetition teaches your brain something different. You do not need to understand everything during the first listen. In fact, the first listen should never feel like an exam. Your first goal is simply becoming comfortable with English sounds. A very useful technique for beginners is combining listening with reading. This does not mean reading subtitles all the time. It means giving your brain support while training your ears. For example, read a short paragraph first, then listen to the same audio, then listen again without looking. This creates a connection between written English and spoken English. You begin understanding how words actually sound when spoken naturally. Many learners are surprised because they realize they already knew many words. They simply never heard them correctly before. Another excellent habit is shadow listening. Shadowing means listening and repeating short phrases after the speaker. Do not try to repeat perfectly. Do not worry about mistakes. Your goal is matching rhythm and flow. This helps your ears and mouth work together. Beginners often think speaking and listening are separate skills. They are connected more than you imagine. When your mouth practices sounds, your ears recognize those sounds better later. This makes listening feel easier over time. One more important thing is slowing down the process. Many learners want fast results. They jump from beginner videos to advanced conversations and feel defeated. But improvement comes from gradually increasing difficulty. Start with simple stories, short conversations, easy English videos, graded listening content, then slowly move upward. Your confidence grows with your ability. Another secret that many learners never hear is this. Do not listen only to understand. Listen to notice. Notice how speakers connect words. Notice their tone. Notice repeated expressions. Notice pauses. Listening becomes more powerful when you stop focusing only on translation and start observing the language itself. Many beginners also avoid listening because they think they are doing something wrong if they do not understand. War. But confusion is part of learning. When something feels difficult, your brain is being challenged. That challenge helps growth. The important thing is not staying confused forever. The important thing is continuing with manageable practice. There is another habit that can completely change your listening progress. Speak after listening. After finishing a short audio, close your eyes and explain the idea in simple English. You do not need perfect grammar. You only need to express what you understood. This activity trains understanding and recall at the same time. Your brain becomes more active. You can also keep a simple listening journal. Write 2 or 3 sentences about what you heard. Write new expressions only if they seem useful. Do not turn your notebook into a dictionary full of hundreds of words. Keep it simple. Keep it enjoyable. The biggest reason learners improve is not because they use complicated techniques. It is because they continue. Some days listening will feel amazing. Some days it will feel difficult. Both days are normal. Do not judge your progress based on one session. Think about children learning language. They listen long before they speak confidently. They repeat without fear. They make mistakes. They continue. That natural process works for English learners too. Your listening does not need perfection. It needs exposure. It needs patience. It needs time. And here's something exciting to remember. Every time you listen to English, even when you understand only part of it, your brain is collecting information. Your ears are becoming familiar. Your understanding is growing underneath the surface. So, if today feels difficult, do not stop. Start small. Listen daily. Repeat often. Stay curious. Enjoy the process. Because in the next chapter, we are going to talk about the biggest habit that turns a listening dot from something frustrating into something that becomes part of your everyday life. And that habit may be simpler than you think. Next chapter, Woo, the Sansor's minute listening habit that changes everything. Now we have reached the final chapter, and this chapter may become the most important part of your English listening journey, because everything we talked about until now becomes powerful only when you turn it into a daily habit. Many learners know what to do. They understand the techniques, they watch videos, they collect tips, they feel motivated for a few days. But after that, life becomes busy, motivation disappears, and English goes back to the background again. That is why today I want to talk about something more powerful than motivation or I want to talk about building a simple listening habit that you can follow every single day without pressure and without feeling exhausted. If you truly want to improve English listening, you do not need to become perfect. You do not need to listen for hours. You do not need expensive courses. You only need one thing: 30 minutes of English listening every day. 30 minutes may sound small, but do not underestimate small actions repeated consistently. Many learners think big results require huge effort every day, but language learning does not work like that. Language grows quietly, slowly, naturally. 30 minutes today, 30 minutes tomorrow, 30 minutes next week. 8 months later, your brain becomes completely different from where it started. The first thing you should understand is that consistency beats intensity. Listening for 3 hours once a week cannot compare with listening for 30 minutes every day. Why? Because your brain learns through repetition and regular exposure. When English enters your life daily, your brain stays connected to the language. You do not forget as quickly. Sounds become familiar, words become easier to recognize. Think about brushing your teeth. You do not brush for 5 hours on Sunday and stop for the rest of the week. You do it daily because small actions keep producing results. English listening works in the same way. Now let me show you a simple 30-minute listening routine that beginners can actually follow. For the first 10 minutes, listen without pressure. Choose something easy. Kaken, a short English story, a beginner-friendly conversation, a simple video. Your goal is not understanding every word. Your goal is becoming comfortable with English sounds. Do not pause every second. Do not translate everything. Just listen and let English enter your ears naturally. For the next 10 minutes, listen again. This time, focus slightly more. Catch words you recognize. Notice expressions. Notice pronunciation. Notice how speakers connect words together. You may understand more during the second listening than the first one. K. This is where many learners experience a beautiful surprise. Suddenly, sentences that sounded impossible start making sense. For the final 10 minutes, do something active. Speak about what you heard. Say 1 or 2 sentences. Summarize the main idea. Repeat a phrase. Or answer simple questions in English. This last step turns listening from passive understanding into active learning. You do not need to sound perfect. Nobody becomes fluent by sounding perfect at the beginning. Another important thing is creating a fixed listening time. And choose a time that feels natural for you. Morning, afternoon, evening, before sleeping. It does not matter. What matters is showing up every day. At first, your brain may resist. You may feel lazy. You may think one day does not matter. But habits are built through showing up even when motivation disappears. After several weeks, something changes. You stop thinking about listening as study. You start feeling uncomfortable if you skip it. English slowly becomes part of your normal life. That is when real transformation begins. Many learners ask me one question: how long until I become good at listening? My answer is always the same. Do not measure your progress every day. Listen, repeat, continue. One day you will suddenly notice that English videos feel easier. Another day, you understand conversations without translating. Another day, unfamiliar sounds no longer scare you. Those are signs that your brain has been changing all along. And there is one more secret I want you to remember. Enjoyment matters. If listening feels like punishment, you will quit. Choose topics you enjoy: stories, travel, daily conversations, simple lessons, anything that keeps your curiosity alive. When you enjoy listening, 30 minutes feels short. Hey, when you force listening, even 5 minutes feels long. Make English something you want to come back to every day. Do not chase speed. Do not chase perfection. Chase consistency. Your future English ability is not built in one heroic study session. It is built in thousands of small moments nobody notices. 30 minutes of listening, 30 minutes of showing up. 30 minutes of giving your brain another chance to understand English. And slowly, without realizing it, English becomes easier. Listening becomes natural. Understanding becomes faster. Speaking becomes more comfortable. Confidence grows. This is not a dream. This is what happens when learners stay consistent. So, today, I want to leave you with one question. Will you give English 30 minutes every day? Not 2 hours, not 5 hours, just 30 minutes. Because those 30 minutes may look small today, but 1 year from now, they may become the reason your English changes completely. Start today. Open one simple English audio. Listen, repeat, enjoy. And remember one thing. You do not become fluent in one day. You become fluent through small daily actions, repeated with patience and belief. If this video helped you understand English listening better, do not forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more simple English learning content, and comment below. Write, I will practice English listening every day. I read your comments, and I love seeing learners grow step by step. Let us make English a part of your daily life starting today.